Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the All Sports Podcast. Looking to bring you the best and most entertaining podcast about sports there's around. We hope you respect our opinions as we look to respect yours. This podcast is for entertainment and analytical purposes only, and made to have fun. Leave us your thoughts of our topics and comments in the comment section below. We'll hope you enjoy the podcast, like the videos, and subscribe to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the All Sports Podcast. My name is Jonah with my colleague Gentry, and today we're going to be talking about our 2021 NBA playoff predictions. The NBA regular season will start back up on December 22nd, and they will play a reduced 72-game schedule. So now, let's cut right to the gist and begin our predictions. First off, we're going to start off in the Western Conference with the number one seed. And I think that we can say that we both mutually agree and say that our number one seed will be the Los Angeles Lakers. Coming off as defending champions, they will regain the West with ease in these reduced 72 games. Why did you have them as your number one seed?
Because the amount of depth they have, I don't think LeBron will play. I think LeBron might miss a good amount of games, but I think even though that was just a preseason last night, I think that team's pretty deep. And with AD, it won't be like he's going to have to lead that team, like I say, because LeBron won't take that many games off. But, yeah, that's why. Just experience and that championship pedigree.
The Lakers will probably more than likely regain that number one seed just out of the sheer fact. They just signed AD to a 5-year extension, I believe. Now I'm thinking of Paul George. They signed AD to a max extension. LeBron has a 2-year extension, and I think that they're going to be on the money once again. It's just going to be really hard to defeat the Lakers in any shape or form. And it's going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I think you're right, though, too, that they did sign AD to a 5-year deal.
It was a 5-year deal.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that's the reason why the Lakers shouldn't go back to being a number one seed unless, barring any injuries or just any unfortunate mishaps for the Lakers. I think showing how dominant they were in that playoff run shows how deep they go. What do you think of LeBron and AD's connection in the next upcoming season with the addition of Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder?
Yeah, I think it'll work out great. I think that's the duo in the league with the most chemistry, which that's why it makes them the best duo. But being that LeBron is 36 and AD is always injury prone, they needed to add some depth to that bench to help out in the regular season. Because even though it's 10 games left, those regular season games pile up. So you need depth to make it through the season.
Especially the first year when LeBron was by himself, just starting with the young Lakers. Those injuries were tough, and the young Lakers just couldn't get it done without him. And the addition of AD, in case either one gets hurt, the other one can still kind of carry their own weight. And just 2 6-Man of the Year candidates, 1 winner. That's huge for the Lakers. That's huge for them going on, especially trying to make it to a playoff run. And what do you think is going to be their X factor for the season for the Lakers? What's going to get them that back-to-back title?
I think it'll be, you got to look at people like, trying to think of Tevin Horton Tucker, man, if he can be a great assist guy for the Lakers, more of a ball handler. I know he's very young, but if he can blossom and Alex Caruso keep developing. And then I think the first thing you got to say to as Frank Vogel, and you got to see the biggest thing that would keep them from repeating would be like a Anthony Davis injury. I think that's more likely to happen than a LeBron injury, even though LeBron's 36, because AD gets all those tic-tac injuries all the time. That's like the biggest thing. Just AD staying healthy. And also, another thing would be, even though that's kind of like out of the whole entire league's control, but depending on where James Harden goes, as long as James Harden don't go to the Nets or the Bucks, they should be all right.
Yeah, that'll be very big for the Rockets, as we might talk about them, we might not. It just depends on if we think that they're makeable for the playoffs. If James Harden stays, it is obvious that they will make the playoffs. But if he doesn't, then who knows? We will have to see. Moving on to our number 2 seed for the Western Conference. I have chosen the Los Angeles Clippers to move back into a 2 seed, right behind the Lakers. They lose Montrezl Harrell. They sign Paul George to this insurmountable amount of money to a max. And he said he's going to stay a Clipper. I think that might motivate people. I think Kawhi will be right back to form. They just needed this rest, because you could see that they were just out of it in that Game 7 against the Nuggets, who is your 2 seed. And I think that they're going to be right back with them. They're going to be just a little bit below the Lakers, because I think the Lakers take care of business more than the Clippers. That's just how LeBron teams do it. And why are the Nuggets your number 2 seed?
I think it's just because of how young they are, and then Mike Malone is an underrated coach, but they still have like, oh man, I really wanted to trying to remember exactly who they drafted. Might have been Josh Green, maybe not. Either way, they got Bobo. They have Michael Porter Jr. They have Jokic. They have Jamal Murray. I mean, they lost Jeremy Grant, and that's kind of an underrated thing that I don't think people talk about enough, because he was a real solid player. They still have Monte Morris. I just like their team, and again, this is like regular season, so I'm not sure what they were last year. It might have been like 3 or 4, but I expect them to have, shoot, for all we know, they might end up being the 1 seed. I wouldn't be shocked to see that, but the only thing that comes with that is you got to watch out for those analysts overrating this Nuggets team if they become the 1 seed. The only reason I would say that they could become the 1 seed is because of how young and hungry they were and how far they made it last year compared to the Lakers and Clippers, who don't really care that much about the regular season.
Yeah, I think that these young Nuggets were very, very good. The Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic is going to be so good for them, because they already have those 2 centerpieces. It's just going to depend money-wise how they handle them. However, that showing in the playoffs was so great. How they come back against the Clippers. They honestly fought really hard against the Lakers. Obviously, the Lakers just had them easily outmatched. But this is a scary team that people will have to watch out for, and they have something going over there in Denver. You say they lose Jeremy Grant. I'd say that he would be the X factor, but he's no longer there. Who is their new X factor?
The new X factor, it's got to be Bobo. I hate to say it, because his dad was great, and he dang well has the potential to be even greater, but based on his build, until he can put mass on, I think he'll be injury prone as well. But that's got to be the X factor. I still don't understand why they didn't play him in the playoffs neither.
Yeah, he played in the bubble, and I was just like, look at this dude. This dude is really good. And then they make it to the playoffs, and they're just like, no, we're not going to play him. Speaking of Jamal Murray, is he capable of MVP caliber talent with, say, Giannis and LeBron?
Uh, no, I don't see that, but I do see him winning it before Jokic though, because it seems like nowadays you got to be a ball handler to win the award. Which Jokic can handle the ball, but again, he's a center. So
Right. Moving on to the next, we have the 3 seed in the Western Conference. For me, it was the Dallas Mavericks. For you, it was the Los Angeles Clippers. You had the Clippers down 1. I had them up 1. Go ahead and touch on the Clippers.
yeah, I like the Clippers team a lot. And I'm not even going to go into that because that's like a whole separate thing that happened months ago. But I really do like that roster, but I just feel like in the playoffs they put too much pressure on Kawhi. But I do think, as crazy as this sounds, I do think they actually got a better coach. 'Cause I think Doc Rivers is one of the most overrated coaches, and I don't want to say history because that's really stretching it, but I think he's massively overrated. I don't know if Ty Lue is that good of a coach, but Doc Rivers, I don't think he sets the right culture. But you know what you're going to get from Paul George in the regular season. He's going to be a top 15 player. But in the playoffs, that's a different story. Really like the Luke Kennard pickup. Really like the Serge Ibaka pickup. Serge Ibaka fits way better for the Clippers than Montrezl Harrell. But
I was going to ask,
Harrell fits really good.
with the loss of Montrezl Harrell, who's going to step up and be that sixth man? Who's going to be that dog that Montrezl Harrell was?
Or they had to put that trust into Serge Ibaka and Luke Kennard, because I know you're probably thinking that I'm forgetting about Lou Williams, but I heard that he's on the trade block and he probably won't be with them by the time the trade deadline comes around. So they're looking to move on from him as well. So I don't know how that's going to go.
So I had the Dallas Mavericks as the 3 seed. I do think, unfortunately, that Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, all of them are just phenomenal. They're going to be tough to beat. It's going to have to take LeBron to beat this team. Luka is MVP caliber, of course. He was in the talks last year. He will definitely be in it this year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think that they were close because you could see Luka's magic in the series against the Clippers. Unfortunately, the Clippers just outclawed them. But you have a healthy Kristaps. You have Luka Doncic. You have Tim Hardaway Jr., who's just phenomenal as well as a shooter. He's a great role player for this team. Who am I missing? Oh, they got Josh Richardson. That was a pickup. They have Willie Cauley-Stein was a good big man pickup. Just all these little guys just playing will really power for these Mavericks. Moving on to the number 4 seed in the Western Conference, the final team to gain a home spot. I have the Golden State Warriors, and you have the Portland Trail Blazers. Why is Portland at number 4?
They're one of the most underrated teams in the league. They may have an overrated player now in Damian Lillard, because I'm not gonna lie, people are starting to overrate that OKC series because he has struggled in the playoffs in the past. But ever since 2013, when LaMarcus Aldridge was the star, he's went to the playoffs. And they re-signed Carmelo, picked up Robert Covington, very, very solid player. Picked up Derrick Jones Jr. They got off that horrible Hassan Whiteside contract. He's also he's not that good of a player. They also have a most improved player candidate, Gary Trent Jr. If he can improve his defense, he kind of reminds me of Buddy Hield, maybe not quite on that level, but like he's very young. I think this is only his third year, so he's got very good potential. But then, as long as they don't get rid of that dynamic duo and CJ and Leather in the middle of the season, I see them as being at worst the sixth seed. If they're not the fourth seed, like I predict, they will be a playoff team. They just got too much explosiveness, but their problem in the past has been defense. So I mean that's something to look at when you're talking about them.
Right. So you say their defense is the problem, but in today's league, you haven't seen nobody has seen pristine defense except for that All-Star game that they played for the charities. Do you think that their offense can surpower the very lackluster defense in today's league?
So yeah, I think that offense can. It's just you gotta figure out a way to kind of do kind of not this past year, but the year before. You kind of got to go back to that where you can get Damian Lillard to play off ball and let CJ be a ball handler as well, because that's when they beat the Nuggets. They took them to 7 games. That's when they had that dominant series when they let Lillard play more off the ball. The more offensive load he has to take, the less chance you're going to have a winning in the playoffs. Now, in the regular season, the more times he touches the ball, the more likely you are to win. But in the playoffs, you got to learn to spread the ball around and be more team-centric. But this is just a regular season seeding.
For the Portland Trail Blazers. I have the Golden State Warriors. I think that they will power back and make their way back into the top four behind the three upper teams of Lakers, Clippers, Mavericks. I think James Wiseman was a beautiful pickup for the Warriors, and they couldn't have picked anybody better in that spot. They've always needed a big man. They got DeMarcus Cousins, but he didn't play. They had Andrew Bogut. Like, that's not good. He was solid and down low, but they just need that star center to help Curry and Clay whenever he's not hurt. They just picked up, like we talked about before this, Kelly Oubre. That's insane. They have all these weapons. Now they have someone down low who can be physical. And you can let Draymond go back up and be point guard again if Curry is out. And you still have a presence in the paint with James Wiseman. James Wiseman is going to be special. He is athletic. He's big. He's going to thrive in this shooter's mentality league. And the Warriors will find their way to win, barring any more injuries than Klay Thompson. Moving on to the Western Conference 5 seed, you have the Dallas Mavericks. I have the Denver Nuggets. Why is Dallas going to be a 5 seed heading into the 4 seeds home?
Well, I think they'll be the 5 seed because I don't want to keep saying this over and over again because it's going to sound like a broken record. But I mean, it's part of sports. But I don't know. I have them lower than those teams because of Kristaps' health and other players' health. Not Luka. I don't have Luka included in that concern though. But it's mainly Kristaps because he's had some injury troubles in the past. But if he can stay healthy, I think that's going to be probably the best scoring offense in the league again. But just like the Trailblazers, they have to work on their defense. But I do like should have pulled their roster up. But I know most of the players like Tim Hardaway Jr. and they drafted a very underrated player in Josh Green. That's who I was talking about. The Nuggets might have drafted him, but I was wrong. I was thinking about the Mavericks. It's like a 6'6" shooting guard that can play on the wing. I don't know much about him as other people because I don't watch college as much. I just watch NBA, but he's a very, very solid pickup that can fit right in with that culture. And Mark Cuban is a very smart owner, so he knows what he's doing. And then Rick Carlisle, a very underrated coach. So I like that team a lot.
I have to agree there. For my number 5 seed, I have the Denver Nuggets. For some reason, I'm just not following their hype. They do have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, absolute stars. Um, it's just I just saw how they played against the Lakers, and yes, it's the regular season, and they can gain that high seed. But in a reality where every team is playing to their best ability, the Nuggets are a 5 seed behind the 4 teams that I have placed. And I think that's very reasonable. Nikola Jokic is the top 3 center in the league in talks with Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns. Jamal Murray is an upcoming star after that bubble performance. It was absolutely phenomenal. Um, the Nuggets are, I just feel like they're going to struggle. That hype is going to go down, and they're going to just end up at the 5 seed, and that's just how I see it. What do the Mavericks have to do to get this 5 seed?
I think they just had to, again, I think this is well, depending on how it looks when we go to the east side. Well, I can't say that's going to be the last time, but it's going to be the last time I say it for the west, now that I'm thinking about it in my head. But just injuries is the main thing with them, but I really like their team. It's very young. That's another thing people got to realize. If they don't live up to expectation, they are very, very young, and they have plenty of improvement to do over time. But I think they just add on to what they did last season by cutting out the rough edges of the offense and trying to crisp it up a little bit more, but just mainly focusing on the defense. Because Luka can learn defense. He's very young, played in the Euro League, so he's got way more experience than most people. And he's tall. He's got that on his side. So him and Kristaps can be a leader in the locker room and figure out schemes and stuff that works best for them.
Yep. The young Mavericks take his 5 seed. The Nuggets will take mine. Moving on to the 6 seed in the Western Conference, you have picked the Phoenix Suns, and I have went with the New Orleans Pelicans. Why has this Suns team rebuilt, and why are they so good as to make a 6 seed?
Well, I think I don't want to follow the crowd, so to speak, but it's mainly because Chris Paul was signed, and you already know how good Devin Booker is, and I get what people say. Well, if he was so good, he would have made the playoffs by now or something like that. But I mean, him and Zach LaVine are very similar. They're very, very good. I think Devin Booker. Now, don't misquote me when I say this, because I think somebody's going to take that and try to take it out of context. What I mean by that when I'm comparing them is they're very, very skilled guards. They just wasn't on a good team. I think Devin Booker is way better than Zach LaVine, but I think people get what I meant when I said that because they were both on bad teams. But now Devin Booker has an elite ball handler and floor general and Chris Paul. And the only reason DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin were hyped up back in the Lob City days was because of Chris Paul. Ever since Chris Paul left the Clippers, I mean, you still hear about Blake Griffin because people remember like the days of the hype. But we haven't really heard a thing about DeAndre Jordan since Chris Paul left town. I think Chris Paul's pick and roll action and his ability to see and spread the floor with DeAndre Ayton, as long as he don't get in more trouble with the league, would be nothing less than great. And plus, like you got Devin Booker, I mean, he's got the potential to win the scoring title every season. He's just like crazy when it comes to offense. So I really like that team as well. Plus, they have people like, I always get the brothers mixed up. I'm pretty sure it's Miles Bridges. Then they have they don't have Rubio. No, I was trying to think of somebody. Pull that up real quick. I don't want to keep nobody waiting. I'm trying to think. That's the thing I was gonna point out. Their rosters got good depth on it as well. Oh yeah, like they signed Jay Crowder. He's a like nice solid 3 and D guy. Then you have Yeah, Mikael Bridges, not Miles Bridges. And you got Damian Jones, he's a good young center. And you got Etwan Moore, he can shoot pretty good. Cameron Payne's a solid backup. Yeah, so that's all I got to say about the Suns.
As for me, I believe that the New Orleans Pelicans will find their way back into the playoffs since Anthony Davis was last on the team and they lost to the Warriors. They will be led by the hype man himself, Zion Williamson. I will follow that train until he leaves. But you have Most Improved winner Brandon Ingram. You have Lonzo, who I believe will finally kind of become a better himself because of the star power in Zion. Zion has had a good offseason to kind of rebuild his body. You're just going to have the absolute scoring machine in Brandon Ingram. I think Jackson Hayes is a problem down low. He just has to kind of learn the ropes a little bit more. Lonzo is a really key factor here because he is the veteran of these youngins. He played in Los Angeles and he got traded to New Orleans, and he's got the Zion lob connection. He doesn't even have to do anything with the ball. He can hand the ball off to Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram can do all the work from there. These young Pelicans are going to make moves, and they are going to be a problem when it comes to the playoffs. Moving on to our number 7 seed in the Western Conference, you have the Golden State Warriors. My 7 seed is the Phoenix Suns. Why do the Warriors see themselves back in the playoffs this year?
I think it's just because of mainly the greatness of Stephen Curry, and I would have had them like a top 4 seed if they would have had Clay, of course. But I don't know, when you start throwing Andrew Wiggins in as one of your best players, and then you throw like Kelly Oubre in, that just I don't know. That just really throws me off. I mean, this is really gonna be a test, and I don't mean to sound like a hater when I say this. I'm not talking about Curry. But I'm talking about Steve Kerr when I say this, to see if he's a great coach like people say he is. Because I want to be honest. I don't want to go away from the topic, but if you really look at it, Mark Jackson already set up the dish, as in the team. Then Steve Kerr, then he got fired for some unknown reason. Then Steve Kerr comes in and somehow gets all the credit, because Mark Jackson is the one that incorporated that system and talked with Jerry West to draft Clay and draft Curry and draft Draymond. But like, this would be Steve Kerr's first test since like 2014, which he did very good that season. But I don't know. You have to see how he does with like the young rookie James Wiseman and Kelly Oubre. But the reason I have them so low is because Clay being out, of course, and also, I don't know, a lot of people talk great about Andrew Wiggins, but I just don't. I am not very high on Andrew Wiggins. I'm actually not high on him at all. I don't think he's that good. But I think Steve Kerr will be able to figure something out. And if it doesn't go like they planned the first half of the season, they can make some moves at the trade deadline. But yeah, that's why I have the Warriors at the 7th spot.
As for me, I have the Phoenix Suns at the 7th spot. I would have loved to have put them higher, but losing Kelly Oubre Jr. just made them fall down on the list for me. They were so good. Devin Booker and Kelly Oubre just absolutely dominated offensively. I remember watching them play the Hawks, and I was like, okay, we're playing the Suns. We got this down. And not at all, because the Suns just were absolutely explosive on offense. They dominated the game. Devin Booker is an all-star without a doubt due to his scoring. He's an absolute beast shooter. He can shoot it from anywhere on the court. And Chris Paul was an awesome pickup for Devin Booker. Devin Booker has needed help. He got help from Kelly Oubre just a bit. And having him handle the ball instead of Chris Paul, that is big. As well as DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton was a top 3 pick for a reason. I can't remember if he was the number 1 pick. I think he was. But
Yeah, he was.
he was that pick for a reason. He is a beast down low. I think. I don't think he's the greatest shooter, but it's the presence down low that makes people like him succeed in today's league. People just don't go in the paint and nobody's physical anymore. And so, for that reason, he's going to be a big X factor. Like you spoke about, Mike Bridges. Jay Crowder was an amazing pickup, like you say, the 3 and D. Just a good bench guy. They got Damon Jones. Damon Jones signed with the Suns from the Hawks, or either got traded. I can't remember. Either way, he is on there. He's a good backup center. He's a good guy to get in, get your minutes, and get out. With that, the Suns looking to find the playoffs since who knows how long. But I have the Suns, you have the Warriors. Let's move on to the 8th seed. And with the 8th seed, you have the Utah Jazz, and for me is the Memphis Grizzlies. Why are the Utah Jazz going to fill that final spot and barely make the playoffs?
Thank you. Well, I have the Jazz because they were 6th seed last year, and I just don't. I don't know. I wanted to put the Pelicans instead. I kind of want to put the Pelicans higher than the Warriors, but I just don't know if I'm ready to go there yet. I know I can see Zion's greatness, and I can see Lonzo's greatness as well. I feel bad because LeBron is getting old, so he didn't have time to wait on Lonzo and Brandon Ingram. But that would have been something. But I mean, when you compare him to AD, they're not even in the same conversation. But I think they're 2 great players. But still have JJ Redick, great shooter. And they fired Alvin Gentry and they got a new coach. I'm trying to think of what his name is at the moment, but I can't think of it. But I do like that culture surrounding that young team. So yeah, but back to the Jazz. Reason I put them is because Donovan Mitchell. I have faith in him and Mike Conley. I'm pretty sure he's still on the team because I'm pretty sure he signed an absurd extension. And you have Rudy Gobert, which I think he's slightly overrated. I mean, he is a defensive monster, but like in the playoffs, he's not as valuable. And you have guys like Joe Ingles, very solid player. But I mean, that's all I got to say about the Jazz. I mean, they could be a top 5 seed, but being that it is the Western Conference, I don't see it being a big deal if they were the 6th seed last year, sliding to the 8th seed. Jazz fans might see that as a slight, but that's just a compliment to the competition that they have to play each year. But that's all I got to say about the Jazz.
As for me, I have the Memphis Grizzlies because they were really close to making the playoffs last year. I think they will make the playoffs this year by sliding in as the 8th seed.
Wait, can you hear me? You still got it muted. I don't know if you're doing something or not. That's what I'm just saying. What'd you say? Yeah. Yeah, you were muted for a minute there, so I didn't know what you said.
Okay. Sorry for that. I have the Memphis Grizzlies in as the 8th seed. The Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson connection is really strong. Ja Morant, former Rookie of the Year, will surge, possibly a Most Improved Player candidate. Going to be tough though with all the talented people and possibility of being able to get that. They have Grayson Allen still. I think he might find a way on there. They have Sean McDermott. Jonas is there. They have Justice Winslow now. They have Gorgie Jang, like Dylan Brooks is a stud. They just have all these pieces that fit together. Tyus Jones, they have so much good in them, and I think that they can get an 8 seed. They could possibly even get even higher than that. Just for now, I think that the safest option is to put them as an 8 seed because they can make the playoffs. It's just a matter of where, and with the competition in the West, I think that an 8 seed will be the perfect fit for them. That is our 1 through 8 in the Western Conference, and now we will move on to the Eastern Conference. For the number 1 seed, we both think that it is the obvious pick, unanimous decision, the Milwaukee Bucks. Why are the Milwaukee Bucks going to be the number 1 seed once again?
Well, just by picking up Drew Holiday, that moves Chris Middleton to a third option. Then Giannis, he's the best regular season player. Not trying to bash. It's kind of the obvious. He really needs to work on the jump shot. Not even the jump shot. Let me be more specific when I say. I feel like he has the build and the stature and the skill to develop a decent post game. If you develop a decent post game, not even a post fade or a hook, just being there, well, that's what a post game is. So what I mean is, it doesn't even have to be nothing crazy. If you can just get like a post hook just to know that you're a threat from the post, that's going to force people to come double team you, thus leaving the shooters open. Because that's his problem in the playoffs. If he goes to drive and they clog and then he goes to kick out, but they're still guarding, so therefore it leads to a turnover. Or the shooter's not open, so they run out of time. But if Giannis can just develop that part of his game, which he's very young, I don't even think he just turned 25 or he's fixing to, so he's very, very young. And Drew Holiday, I think he's a properly rated player. Very, very good for that team. A ball handler, which is desperately needed because Giannis shouldn't be handling the ball that much because of he's a big. He has the skills to do it, but he should mainly just be scoring on fast break and transition and not have to worry about handling the ball. That can be settled to Drew Holiday and then Chris Middleton. Very, very solid player, but he's kind of, I don't know how to explain him. I don't know how to rank him, but I feel like he's underrated, but he's overrated at the same time. But that's kind of like, that don't make much sense when you talk about it, but I think he's the best third option you can have, but he's not a good second option to have. So if Drew Holiday can take over in the second option spot and Chris Middleton can slide into the third option, then that kind of just makes the most sense to me. And Mike Budenholzer is a very good regular season coach, as he did with the Hawks in 2015, and as he's done with the Bucks. He just got to figure out what messes him up so bad in the playoffs.
I agree. Giannis MVP, of course. The pickup of Drew Holiday was very key, as they also were going to almost get Bogdanovich from the Kings until everything got messed up there, and that would have been huge for them and would have made Giannis a little bit more happy, I'm pretty sure, as they were saying. And Chris Middleton, that's a pretty solid big three in Holiday, Middleton, and Antetokounmpo. You still have Brook Lopez down low. They also have DJ Augustine, Pat Connaughton, Jalen Adams, Dante DiVincenzo. The whole team around is just really good. Bobby Portis is on the team now. They're just so solid all around. What are they going to do to win? Like you say, the hump for what is going to get Mike Budenholzer over the hump for these Bucks? How is he going to be able to find the NBA Finals in a kind of tougher Eastern Conference now? The Celtics have built up the young guys. The Nets are back and healthy with a new coach. How are they going to deal with it? the Heat showing that they are dominant in the Eastern Conference. What can the Bucks do to get over that hump? Being that they know that they're the best team, they know they have the best player, the MVP player, and then what are they going to do to find the finals and to be hoisting that trophy at the end of the season? That's the question. It's obvious that they're number one seed. They're too dominant. Um,
Two main things it comes down to is Giannis is going to have to. When I'm talking about this, I'm not being respectful because he's a great player, generational talent, once in a lifetime type player. He just got to develop. I mean, he did that against the Lakers this past season before COVID happened. Before the layoff, he hit 5 threes in a game. He hit one from half court. So he has the ability to shoot threes. I just feel like I mean, he's been doing pretty dang good at it. But my thing is, you gotta keen in on that post game for the playoffs. So when a team like the Heat or the Raptors clog the paint, it's all about him performing to his full potential in the playoffs. He's got to take the best man on defense, but also I'm kind of splitting the blame when I say that Mike Budenholzer has got to realize that how great Giannis is. He's got to play more minutes. He's got to play him up to 45 minutes if he has to. I know that only gives him 3 minutes of rest, but LeBron and KD and Kawhi do it all the time. So he can shoulder that load. Plus, Mike Budenholzer has got to realize his flaws and make the right adjustments. Because, what happened last year, I know it was a whole different environment because of the bubble, but that shouldn't have happened because that Bucks team was clearly better on paper. But it was just a tough matchup putting Bam on Giannis. But I feel like that's what it comes down to. It comes down to Giannis's development in his game, patching the holes, and Mike Budenholzer making the right adjustments. I feel like that's what needs to be done.
The Bucks, you name this one seed. Then you have the thoughts of what they can do to go more than just the one seed. Moving on to the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, I have the Brooklyn Nets, and you have the reigning, defending Eastern Conference champions, the Miami Heat. Why are the Miami Heat going to succeed and find the 2 seed behind the Bucks?
I just feel like all that young talent they have. Jimmy Butler actually became underrated. Now he might be overrated. I don't know. Just have to see how the climate goes of the season. But I mean, he's the perfect leader, the perfect glue guy for that team. And Tyler Hero. I mean, I just don't want to keep throwing this word out, but it's just a good vocabulary word when you're talking basketball. But that man is a beast. He's a glorified beast, but he's already being overrated. And I don't know how, but I mean he's great. But he's got a fatal flaw is that defense. Same thing with Duncan Robinson. But actually talking about the co-star of the team, Bam Adebayo, that man is on the rise. He's a great player. He just needs to find his offense more. And Eric Spoelstra, I think he's actually the best coach in the league when it comes to what he's working with and what he was able to do last season. And this is all hypotheticals, but if they get James Harden, I mean, that's a huge if. But if they get James Harden, the finals is going to be insane. If they get James Harden, I see them as the 1 seed, but not talking on hypotheticals with the current team they have, all that young talent, and you got Bam, you got Jimmy, you got Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, you got, pretty sure they re-signed Dragic as well. That team's great, and I expect them to be one of the best teams in the league this year.
As for me, I have the 2 seed is the Brooklyn Nets. If KD is healthy, if Kyrie is healthy, that is literally a top duo with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. and nobody can say anything about it. You have the best ball handler, arguably in history, in Kyrie Irving. You have the future to be best scorer in Kevin Durant, barring any more injuries with his leg. Nobody can stop him. I mean, dude is nearly 7 feet. They say he's under 6'10", but that's almost impossible. Kevin Durant, to me, whenever he is at top notch, is the best player on a basketball court, no matter who he is playing, because nobody can stop him. And that's just what sets him over the bar of everybody else, in my eyes. And everybody has their own opinions, and that's okay. They have Joe Harris, knockdown shooter. DeAndre Jordan. Karis LeVert, man, dude is a stud. They have Jared Allen, Nicholas Claxton, Taurean Prince. Just all these guys. Tyler Johnson. The team is so well-rounded. Landry Shamet, Spencer Dinwiddie. All this talent on their team, and somehow they have the money for it. They're really good on paper. It's just a matter of, are they going to do it on the court? And that's really how the Nets are going to have to play. You got to have KD playing every second. You got to have Kyrie playing every second. Those are your leaders on this team, and that's how they're going to get it done. You're going to have Joe Harris and Chris LeVert back him up if they are down one game. That's the formula for success in Brooklyn. Brooklyn has something special going as they move on, hopefully up to a 2 seed in a correct prediction. Moving on to the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, not much changes here. I have the Heat. You have the Nets. Why are the Nets below the Heat in your eyes?
Nets are below the Heat because of team chemistry, mainly based on Kyrie, has nothing to do with KD. Again, this is to do with rankings and seedings, but Kyrie has become one of my least favorite players. He used to be one of my favorite players, but his personality, I don't like what he says anymore. I don't like he's never available anymore, it seems like, and he just gets caught up in things. But I think Kevin Durant can lead him in a little bit. But that's why I have them as the 3 seed. Heck, I would have had them as the 1 seed if KD wasn't coming off an Achilles. But that's basically why I have them where I have them mainly. Just like you said about all that talent, like Karis LeVert and Allen and freaking Nicholas Claxton and Joe Harris and DeAndre Jordan. They have all those great players. I think they have the deepest bench in the East. Well, between them and the Hawks, but the Nets bench alone, I think they made the 8 seed last year, so that's probably the deepest bench in the East, maybe even in the league. So that's why I have them where I have them, based on Kyrie and KD coming off injuries. So I put them as the 3 seed. But if both of those players were healthy coming into the season, I would have put the Nets as my 1 seed.
Plus, it's hard to dethrone Giannis. As for me, the Heat are going to be lower than the Nets and the Bucks due to the talent, but like you were saying, the Heat's young talent is so phenomenal. But in Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, you have a veteran in Goran Dragic. You obviously have Jimmy Butler. I thought that they had one of the best picks in the draft due to their location and who they got. They got Precious Achiuwa, who played at Memphis alongside James Wiseman in the few games that he played. He was a part of a top 15 prospect in 2019. He was coached by Penny Hardaway, so there's no slouch there. Going to Eric Spoelstra. That's a good rookie. Will he get playing time? Hopefully. I hope the kid gets playing time. That would be nice. But the Heat, they made it to the NBA Finals for a reason. There's no doubt about that. They handled everybody in the East. Jimmy Butler played his heart out. It's just a matter of, will everybody else play their heart out? I mean, no one man can do it all by himself. way it goes. The Heat are a good team, and I think that they will gain the 3 seed behind 2 top teams in the NBA, in the Nets and the Bucks. Moving on to the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, we have for you is the Toronto Raptors. I have the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I have the Raptors because it's how great of a coach Nick Nurse is. Siakam. I mean, he's clearly a number 2 option. That's not a bad thing at all. Definitely all-star material, but in the playoffs, he did not look like himself. But, I mean, not everybody's meant to be the number 1 option. There's nothing wrong with that. He could, what? Actually, I was saying he could develop to the number 1 option, but I'm willing to say he's like already 27 or 28, so he's already an older player. I think he already kind of found kind of what he is. He's like a not crazy athletic, but he's not like a average. He's like a semi-athletic power forward, long, lanky arms, great wingspan, just a prolific scorer. He got Fred VanVleet. Pretty sure he returned. Maybe not. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he returned, and yeah, Nick Nurse and his coaching. Then OG Anunoby, I really like him a lot. And then I don't know who they're gonna replace. Can't forget about Kyle Lowry. I almost did because he's like a quiet guy, but he's very, very good. All that disrespect over the years that he didn't deserve from losing to LeBron. I mean, he showed how great he is against the Warriors in the finals and how good of a leader he is. I just like that culture that they have over there. But I was trying to think of who they replaced Mark Gasol with, but I can't think of it right this minute. But that's why I have them as the 4 seed. They were a 2 seed last year, but I have them as the hypothetical 4 seed going into this season.
As for me, I have the Boston Celtics. I think Jason Tatum is a top young star in this league. He is a prolific scorer. You have Marcus Smart, who is developing. He is a top defender in the league. He is gritty. He'll get in your face, and he is just tough. You have Jaylen Brown, who helps out the Celtics situation. The Celtics are an overall around good team. As for them being the 4 seed, I think that there are 3 teams better than the Celtics. That's not saying that they're bad. I just think seed-wise that the Celtics just fall down to a 4 seed. But you have to watch out for Jason Tatum. They drafted him top 3 in that draft with Lonzo Ball. They're just a really good team. They picked up Jeff Teague to help out Kemba Walker defensively. They have Aaron Nesmith they drafted in the past draft. And, of course, they have Taco Fall. So, obviously, they're going to be good. They picked up Tristan Thompson, which was a huge pickup for the Celtics. So, they are doing what they can to find a way back into the playoffs, back into a top spot to host a game. They are looking to go farther than just a couple rounds. They want to make it all the way. But they're going to fall right into a 4 seed, and that's what I have to say about the Celtics. Moving on to the 5th seed in the East, and would you believe it? We switch them around. You have the Celtics, and I have the Raptors.
Yeah, I have the Celtics because I don't think they're the 5th best team in the East. I think they're better than that. I actually think they're better than the Heat on paper. But basketball is just not about on paper. It's about coaching. So I think Eric Spoelstra's a way better coach than Brad Stevens. But I think Jason Tatum is one of the best young players in the league. Then you have Jaylen Brown. His growth has kind of been stunted because of Jason Tatum, but he's still developing into a really nice player. And then you have Marcus Smart, the Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Probably should have won it last year, even over trying to remember who won it, but I mean I think Marcus Smart is a better defender than AD or Rudy Gobert or anybody else in the league, just as far as the fact you can look up his highlights and he blocks centers, he blocks forwards, he blocks guards. He can literally guard 1 through 5. I mean, you don't want him guarding a 5, but what I'm saying is if he gets switched, he can hold his own. And then you just have young guys like Taco Fall. You still have Kemba Walker. He has some injuries, but a lot of Celtics fans have give up on him, but I feel like he's still what that team needs. But he just got to get it into his head that he's not in Charlotte anymore. He's not a number one option. He's more like a number 3. Because I think he's better than Jaylen Brown offensively, but I feel like Kimber just needs to try to be the third option in the playoffs for them to have the most success. Tatum being the number 1 and Brown being number 2. But Tristan Thompson, one of the most underrated pickups in free agency for the Celtics. I feel like that's what ultimately holds them back is the center position. As long as Tristan Thompson can stay healthy and put in like 20 to 25 minutes a night, the ceiling for this team is as long as everybody stays healthy and the chemistry meshes. I would say NBA Finals are bust even with the Nets and the Bucks in the East because the Celtics people have been counting on them for years and they haven't pulled through. They might start to point fingers at Brad Stevens if it doesn't work out.
Analysis of the young Celtics. As for me, the Raptors are the 5th seed right behind the Celtics. I think both of those teams are kind of they're kind of nick. They're very evenly matched. There we go. But the Raptors just fall a little bit lower than the Celtics. I do think they lose just a little bit more games. The Raptors did lose Marc Gasol. That's a huge loss. They do get Aaron Baines from the Suns. They have Alex Len now. Fred VanVleet got signed to his $21.25 contract for however many years. Pascal is their star. They also picked up DeAndre Bembry for a guard spot. OG Anunoby is really good. You still have Kyle Lowry. They have Patrick McCall, who nearly found himself on another championship team. This team is very well rounded. Just losing Marc Gasol is kind of big because now who's going to be down low presence? Is Aaron Baines going to fill that role? Is Alex Len going to fill that role? We just don't know. The Raptors, they are former champs. They can do it again. Will they is the question, as is for everybody else. They're good. But are they as good as the rest of these teams ahead of them? I don't think so, which puts them down at the 5 seed. Moving over to the 6 seed, both of us unanimously somehow have the Sixers as the 6 seed. Why do the Sixers find themselves back in the playoffs as the 6 seed?
Well, I don't even feel like this time. I don't even feel like this team should be. So I feel like they're top 3 seed material. But again, I mean, somebody if they come across and watch most of this episode, they could put a counter section in the comments as like a meme. But again, it comes down to health and injuries. I mean, I don't know. They may even be higher because Doc Rivers is very successful in the regular season. It's just the playoffs when it gets kind of shaky. Some people want to break up the Ben Simmons and Embiid duo. I don't feel like that's the move. I feel like this is the perfect roster for this as you're gonna get because that very, very, very good pickup into Dwight Howard because of Embiid staying injury prone. Then you're able to move Danny Green to the 2, play Ben Simmons at the 1, Danny Green at the 2, Tobias Harris at the 3, like Fireboy at the 4, and Embiid at the 5. Or maybe you put Ben Simmons at the 4. You just have Fireboy like the 2. Because Ben Simmons, he can play anywhere. He can play 1 through 5. because he can do everything. He just gotta. I don't even think he's got to work on his jump shot. He just got to attempt to shoot more. I feel like he can shoot if he just try. But I think if Embiid's healthy, he's a top 10 player in basketball. But he just gotta get more of his natural play in the weight and try to stay healthy. That's just what holds his team back the most is health.
You hit the hammer on the nail there. Ben Simmons and Embiid together are very dominant. This team is a much better on paper than a 6 seed. I believe that they got the steal of the draft. Also another steal of the draft, spot wise, with the pickup of Tyrese Maxey out of Kentucky. He is an absolute phenomenal guard. Coach Calipari did a really good job with him. Ben Simmons, again, like you said, play anywhere. Matisse Thybulle is really good. They pick up Seth Curry. You hit it on Danny Green and Dwight Howard. And the team, overall, just really good. Like, they have Justin Anderson as well. Mike Scott, a veteran who can go in and play some minutes. Kyle Quinn, who can go in and play some minutes. These guys can just rotate in and out, just help out this team. The pickup of Seth Curry, that adds shooting. Danny Green, they added shooting. That's really good for people like Embiid and Ben who can just dominate down low. And the Sixers, on paper, really good. Can they do it? Again, repetition, I know. But they just disappoint. But are they finally going to be able to get over the hump? Can they find success with Embiid and Ben Simmons? These two are really good young talent. Embiid came back from that injury. He came back strong, top 3 center in the league, and has the Sixers where they want to be. They just have to get over the hump. What is the pickup of Doc Rivers? I know you said that he's very overrated, but how is he going to fit in the Sixers kind of move to the top?
Yeah, I think he'll be able to develop them very well. I'm gonna continue on that topic. I just don't want us to forget about it. They did like the move of the off season, getting off that Horford contract because that contract was trash. Just had to mention that was a very good move. They tried to play him at the 4 last year, and that did not work whatsoever. I forgot where he signed, but that's not here nor there. But Doc Rivers, I like him a lot as a coach in the regular season and even in the playoffs. I mean, I know that's kind of like hypocritical, but I feel like, I mean, you gotta, in his defense, I mean, it's also used against him, but in his defense, he was coaching T-Mac. He never won a playoff series. Coaching Kawhi, this was his fault. Letting him load manage and not come to practice, that falls more on him, but Paul George is a playoff choker. So, I mean, maybe he can just find his spark here in Philly and change the whole narrative, like 1 or 2 years of success over there. Because as long as you get out the first round and push, and in the second round, depending on who the matchup is, if you at least push them 6 to 7 games, I would say that's a success. In this loaded East, I don't feel like it's nearly as competitive as the West, but it is loaded now. It's not weak like it was once before. So I feel like Doc Rivers has just got to develop a system that works great around Embiid and Ben Simmons that Brett Brown couldn't seem to able to do in his time there.
We'll go to the 76ers if our prediction is correct. Moving on to the 7th seed for the Eastern Conference, unanimously chosen is the Atlanta Hawks. And the Atlanta Hawks arguably have the most exciting and kind of outgoing off-season. They had the biggest salary cap, and they went for veteran Danilo Gallinari on a 21.5-year deal for 3 years. They stole Bogdanovich from the Kings' grasp. They pick up the sixth pick in Onyeka Okongwu, who was a dominant center out of USC. You have returning Trae Young, who is just phenomenal on the court. Herder, who they have not paid, but we will have to see. Cam Reddish, possible most improved player, possible sixth man, just depends. They drafted the previous year. This team is very, very exciting. They picked up Clint Capella in the 14th trade. They have a lot to go around with. They picked up Chris Dunn for defense, Solomon Hill for defense. They drafted Skylar Mays out of LSU, who could help. They signed Rajon Rondo for defense. They traded for Tony Snell for defense. Travis Schlenk went out there and got the defense that the Hawks were missing. They picked up young stud Bogdan Bogdanovic. They got the veteran scorer in Danilo Gallinari. They went and got Clint Capella. What is it that makes the Hawks finally reach the playoffs after their 3-year hiatus and this rebuild revolving around Trae Young?
Clint Capella, very underrated center, great rebounder. Him on the pick and roll with Trae Young. And then you got John Collins. That's like a twin tower duo. Hopefully John Collins comes back for a reasonable deal, what it's looking like right now based on what his agent and camp have said, that he may not return to the Hawks based on how he feels his value is. But all can change in a season depending on how he plays. But Trae Young is going to get the majority of the touches. Then Chris Dunn is an excellent player. You might want to play him more at the 2. So Rondo can come off the bench and be your 6th man. Then you can have Chris Dunn at the 2. And you have Gallinari. Then you have Bojan Bogdanovic doing his thing. And then the Hawks coach is his chance to prove that he belongs. Lloyd Pierce, his chance to prove that he was given this job for a reason. Because I don't blame the past couple of years on him at all. That roster was not up to par. Trae Young was just keeping them exciting. Trae Young and John Collins, because people were critical of Trae Young, but that roster was not that good at all. But I feel like the Hawks delivered. And I could even see the Hawks being as high as a 4 seed. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but just depending on how the Nets injuries go, the Sixers, if they mesh well or not this season, and the Nets, because Kyrie gets hurt like every single year now, it seems like. But yeah, I'm really high on this Hawks team, and I expect great things from them this season.
Just watching the Hawks from playing and being the number 1 seed in 2015, getting those 60 wins, then going to the Eastern Conference Finals and rolling over and playing dead against the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers, and after that, slowly deteriorating until they finally couldn't make the playoffs, and they drafted Luka Doncic, traded him to the Mavericks for Trae Young and a future draft pick. So Trae Young is Travis Schlenk's guy. He is Lloyd Pierce's guy, and I think they have surrounded him with absolute talent. Kevin Herter will be his splash brother, as Travis Schlenk was trying to build when he drafted Kevin Herter. John Collins was the centerpiece, now belongs to Trae Young. They picked up DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish last season, which was 2 good rookies that I thought were awesome draft picks. This year they drafted Onyeka Okongwu, which was a dominant center. He has Hassan Whiteside value. He's explosive, he's fun to watch, and just the young talent of this Hawks. All it takes now is development, and that is their problem. Trae Young has obviously developed into an all-star. Him and Luka Doncic, both all-stars. Some could say both superstars, one superstar, one not. It's a personal opinion. But the aggressiveness of Travis Schlenk is what makes these Hawks exciting. You went out and got veteran Rajon Rondo. You went out and got young 28-year-old Bogdan Bogdanovic, an underrated shooting guard in this league who can shoot lights out. You went and got Solomon Hill, great defender. Traded for Tony Snell, great defender. You went and signed Danilo Gallinari for the 21.5. See, they could have went for just this one person. Say they wanted AD, and Travis Schlenk wanted to do that. No, you go out and get Danilo so you can buy Bogdan, Rajon, Solomon. Have all this money so you can build. And the highest player paid is Danilo on that 19.5. Then you got Bogdan at 18, Clint Capella at 16. Plus, they're all, not Danilo, young. Mace, he will be fine if he gets playing time. Just all around, they're young besides Danilo. And you just develop these guys, and you will have a fun team in the Atlanta Hawks, and Trae Young is going to lead them that way. I do think that they somehow find a way in the playoffs, whether it is a 7 or an 8 seed, but this team is really good. However, Lloyd Pierce will have to step up in coaching. He's not a bad coach. He's just not a great coach. What are your thoughts on Lloyd Pierce and how he's going to be able to manage, find lineups for this young Hawks roster to find a lineup to get them to win ball games?
I think he's an average coach. Like I said, I don't blame that on him at all because that roster was not even subpar the way it was built. I mean, no disrespect and if you're watching this, don't dislike it because I say this, but like Vince Carter, you can't be wasting minutes with him. You got to let the young guys play, like Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and you got to let them get minutes and experience in. You can't have that kind of distraction on your team. And like guys like Alex Lynn and Damon Jones and people like that, and Evan Turner. I mean, don't even want to make this joke because it's kind of mean, but that dude got drafted not that long ago, like 2008. Now he's an assistant coach. I mean, that just shows how good he was. But I mean, the Hawks were in that position to where they had to take those contracts in because they were in a rebuild. So you can't blame that on Trae Young and John Collins for playing with guys like that. This is where you're going to be able to see that this coach's true potential when he has pressure on him to make the playoffs and mesh this roster together. But I feel like it'll be a success as long as I'd say in the fourth quarter you got to play Rondo and you got to play Trae Young, of course. And then sure you're going to play John Collins or either Clint Capella. I'd say like at the 5-minute mark, the big three that you would want to have would be Rondo, Trae Young, and John Collins. Maybe John Collins at the 5. Put like Cam Reddish at the 2, or put him at the 3, Kevin Huerter at the 2. You just want to run like a lineup like that, maybe, depending on how he feels and what team you're playing. But just know how to shift and change your lineups based on the timing. But I mean, he's got plenty of talent there. He's got a bunch of people in lineups to try out and see how good they are. I like that team a lot.
There for X factors, the coach here is going to have to be the X factor. How is he going to be able to implement veteran Danilo? How is he going to get Bogdan in while make sure he keeps Trae Young and John Collins in? Plus, you also have to develop Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter and Kevin Huerter still. I mean, Travis Schlenk drafted these guys for a reason. Now it's just up to Lloyd Pierce to be able to get these guys going and mesh it in. And rounding out this Eastern Conference as an 8 seed, it's a toss-up. We both went with 2 teams out of the Eastern Conference East. I don't know. I went with the Hornets. You went with the Wizards. Why do you think that the Wizards will claim that 8 seed?
I think the Wizards could have been even higher because I seen what Westbrook did in the West. I think it had the Thunder as a 5th seed. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was higher. I could see the Wizards being up to a 6th seed, but maybe even a 5th seed. But I think that's their ceiling. I just respect Russell Westbrook's ability to pass and share the ball and operate when he's not. Because, I mean, there's plenty of slander to go around and plenty of proof on Westbrook when it comes to, like, KD. But when you really look at it, Paul George is not that great. He's not a number one type player. So you can't blame that on Russ. And James Harden, I mean, let's be honest. Somebody's watching this, hears this, they're probably going to dislike the video or just click off. James Harden is kind of a ball hog. He's got skill to play off ball, but he don't. I mean, he just dribble, step back. And him and Russell Westbrook, they just didn't mesh well together. I think Russ is more like he's more like a floor raiser, not a ceiling raiser, like you put on a championship team. But he's like a floor raiser. When you take a below average or average roster, he can make you into a playoff team, borderline first round exit since him and KD split. But I mean, it is the East, so anything can happen. And I really like Bradley Beal, but his numbers are a little inflated being on how bad that Wizards team is. But I think he's a prolific scorer, one of the best three-point shooters in the league. And you got young guys like Hachimura and I'm trying to think of another guy. Davis Bertans, I believe. They just signed him to a crazy deal. I don't know why they signed him to that much, but he's also a great shooter. Pop believed a lot in him. And not too sure if they have the same coach or not. But should have wrote that down. Yeah, they still have Scott Brooks. He's a pretty solid coach. He coached Westbrook and KD before. So that'll be a good thing for Russ to have that chemistry. But that's all I got to say about the Wizards. I could definitely see them being as high as a fifth seed, though. Because I just have that faith in Russ when it comes to a okay team. He can really rise them up to be more than their true potential.
As for me, I think the Hornets are a young team. You have Devontae Graham, and you obviously have new, young, talented LaMelo Ball, who some argue is the best ball brother. You have Bismack Biyombo at the center's position. You have Miles Bridges. You have Vernon Carey Jr. out of Duke. That's an absolute stud. They have Gordon Hayward, who they signed. They have the Martin brothers out of Nevada, Caleb and Cody. They have Malik Monk, who is a stud. Terry Rozier, P.J. Washington, and Cody Zeller. All of these pieces are just so well put together. You obviously are going to be led through LaMelo Ball. He's going to have help from a veteran in Gordon Hayward. You're going to have Devontae Graham as a sixth man. Honestly, Malik Monk is going to be another good piece. Terry Rozier off the bench could start. Is scary. P.J. Washington is a good power forward. And Cody Zeller as their big man is solid. Just the pieces in the Hornets, I think that they can see themselves back in the playoffs. I think that, honestly, I didn't want to, but I do think LaMelo Ball will ride the hype train. And I think that the Hornets will find a way back into the playoffs. What about the Westbrook being traded and John Wall? How does that affect both the Wizards and the Rockets? Because I see that none of us had the Rockets in there. I do not think, especially with the James Harden talks. How is this Westbrook and Wall trade just going to pan out in the future?
I don't feel like that's anything to do with John Wall, even though he hasn't played in 2 years. I just feel like it's more of Harden's thing, being frustrated with the organization and going to strip clubs and stuff instead of going to practice. I feel like he's pretty much putting his pink slip in and telling them to trade him. He even added the Bucks and the Heat as destinations. And you know, him and Giannis' beef for it. I guess that's just how bad he wants to get out of Houston now. Which he gave Houston his everything, and if it wasn't for a Chris Paul injury in 2018, he dang well might have won a championship with Chris Paul. That's how good that Rockets team was. They just were destroying the Warriors, but then you take out Chris Paul, and they were able to, I mean, again, the Rockets also missed 27 straight threes. I mean, that's just crazy bad luck, but that's in the past. But speaking as of now, I feel like Harden's done everything he can with that organization. And when you just look at the pieces they have over there, I don't feel like that's that good of a team. I feel like even if Harden was fully locked in and rejuvenated, I feel like that team's only a fifth seed at the most. Because I don't feel like that team's that good on paper. They just made it way worse. Because not only did they get rid of Russ, they got rid of Robert Covington, and they got rid of Clint Capella this past season. But they brought in DeMarcus Cousins, but again, he ain't the same. John Wall ain't the same. I mean, they kind of got rid of everybody. So that's just where my stance is on it.
I think that trade was very interesting, especially John Wall he wanted to go out. He said that he was just done. I don't think John Wall is as good as everybody says he is. That's just my personal opinion. I probably have many people to disagree with me, but John Wall is very overrated. He is not a top star in this league as compared to Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James. You name it. It doesn't matter. He is not. Shoot, his partner Bradley Beal is much better than him, and that's how I feel about it. I don't think that he will have any effect with the Rockets, like you said, especially if James Harden leaves. If James Harden leaves, then the Rockets aren't going to do anything. That's the reason that I think both of us put him out as not making it, because they're just not going to be able to in reality.
Yeah, James Harden's definitely getting traded by the deadline. That's why I just did that without question.
What's going to happen? Overall, how do you feel about your seeds? Do you think that they will hold up by the end of the season? How confident are you in your picks?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in them. The only ones I feel like they can come back to bite me would be not putting the Pelicans in, and maybe I put the Hawks a little too low, as well as the Wizards. But I mean, the East is kind of tough. Pelicans, I'm not sure about the rest of the roster. I have faith in Zion, Ingram, Lonzo, and JJ Redick. But in the East, I don't know. I mean, you got a solid duo in Russ and Bradley Beal, but you got to see how the rest of that team pans out. And then the Hawks, the reason I had them as the 7th seed is because I didn't want to disrespect the other teams and what they worked for over the years and their culture. But like I said, I could see the Hawks as high as a 4th seed. So the Hawks might be the team I would say mostly that could throw my list off, because I like that team a lot. I'm going to be watching it very closely this season.
Well, there you have it. Our projection seeds for the 2021 NBA playoffs. Hopefully you can see the brackets that are on the screen. Maybe zoom in. Hopefully, if not, I will have a better one coming out. I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast for the NBA 2021 playoff predictions. I hope that we're correct. Yeah, just a little competitive talk. I think some picks will happen, some might not. That's just how it goes. Once again, the NBA will restart December 22nd of 2020. Big game starting off there. You will have big Christmas games coming out the 25th. The schedules have been limited to 72 games. And we are ready for another great season of NBA basketball. We have rookies in Ant-Man, LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman. You have young star Luka Doncic looking to kind of legacy that he has already started. You have LeBron James looking to go back-to-back. You have Giannis and the Bucks looking to get over the hump. You have Steve Nash, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant looking to kind of shut out the haters, saying that they can do it. But any last words for this upcoming NBA season?
Yeah, I'm very excited for the season. I just hope it all goes to plan. I'm pretty sure they're going to go like the NFL route and actually travel this time. So there will definitely be COVID tests this time around. I feel like Adam Silver is the best owner in sports though when it comes to COVID based on his track record. Even though they were in a bubble of zero COVID cases, there's zero COVID cases. But there will definitely be more in the regular season because I'm pretty sure they actually will travel now. But yeah, I'm very excited for this upcoming season.
Have it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jonah. That's my colleague Gentry. We hope you enjoyed this portion of the podcast. If you really enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys